tell you something about Andrew. This is my boy right here. You disrespect him, you're disrespecting me.
Inside fighting. Shout out to inside fighting.
How you doing, fight fans? It's the Fight SZN podcast. I am Timmy Shoes with Inside Fighting. I'm joined by Robby Clark and Andrew Capucetti. We're here to talk the fight game. How you doing, boys?
Good, man. How are you?
Living life. Robby, how about you? What's going on?
I'm doing good, man. Just up in Canada, starting to get a little cold here, so I'm feeling good though.
You look like you're ready for the cold, bro. You got the beard on, and you look like. Is it cold already over there? What's the temps?
Yeah, I might, just keep growing it out indefinitely at this point. But yeah, no, it's like 5-10 degrees Celsius. It's not too bad right now, but
wow.
What does that translate to?
From Brazil's a little different than Toronto, so
that's like what 40 degrees, I think, Fahrenheit. But yeah, in Brazil it was like 40 degrees Celsius the other day, which for the Americans in the audience means hot as fuck. It was super hot down here. It's summer right now, so
it's 90 degrees over here in LA. Beautiful.
Wow.
Perfect.
All right, hopping right into it. I want to get you guys' reaction because we had a pretty interesting influencer boxing event. Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis had a lot of hype, but then the reactions after the fight, maybe not as hype. I want to get your guys' take. What did you make of that fight? Logan Paul obviously won by disqualification. He would have won by unanimous decision probably if the fight didn't end the way it did. What did you guys make of that?
I didn't think I was going to be that excited to watch the card, but I was like, I'm definitely not missing this. I thought some of the undercard was good. I thought the tag team match was a little bit weird. Maybe even dangerous. It's kind of weird to have a tag team. It just doesn't. It looks like kind of WWE. And WWE events are great, but this is not WWE, right? So, but in regards to the co-main event and the main event, honestly, they were not good fights. I think that Dylan went in there to survive, and then he tried to pull a couple Diaz tactics, but he's not Diaz, and he didn't hit any of them, right? And he was purposely going for a disqualification. Like when Nate fought Jake, Nate tried to fight. Nate won rounds, right? And then he pulls a little move at the end, and he sunk the guillotine, but he let it go. He wasn't going to go in there and get disqualified because he's not looking for a way out. And listen, Logan's a very strong, athletic guy. Not, he's not in the gym every day training boxing, but he's definitely a hell of an athlete. You got to give that to him. But I just thought, like, what did he land? 9 punches, 6 punches, something like that, Dylan, the entire fight?
Yeah, I think it was 9 punches the whole fight.
Bad.
Yeah, like the reality is, if he opened up, he probably would have got knocked out. But I don't think Logan is, Logan doesn't like to take punches. I don't blame him, right? But Dylan landed a couple shots, and it's like, listen, you probably would have got knocked out if you opened up. But you would have gotten, more respect going in there, trying to open up at the end. These games where you're like laughing and talking, like you almost land one shot and then he'd act like, oh, I got you. It's like, you're down 40 shots to 1 right now. This is stupid. So I thought that was not a great fight. Logan clearly won. I mean, Dylan's not a boxer, right? But Logan clearly won, and the appeal and stuff after is a little cringy.
My quick take on the thought is I don't like to. That shit's already in my rearview mirror. That fight's already in the rearview mirror. I enjoyed it. I would buy it again. I'm not too harsh of a critic. It was solid entertainment. Both fights, co-main and main, were fantastic. So I think Misfits did a great job. The crowd was into it. Tommy Fury sucks. KSI sucks. Logan Paul sucks. And Dylan Dennis is a good entertainer. He tried, like Robby was saying, he tried to do a bunch of Nate Diaz moves. He couldn't finish them. He fumbled the bag there. But the ending was funny when he swung on the bodyguard. Look, I paid the $54 for the pay-per-view. I'm not embarrassed to say that. And I would pay it again. It was fucking entertaining. It was funny as fuck when they all rumbled. And I know a lot of boxing enthusiasts aren't fans of this influencer boxing, but I'm a fan. I think it's fucking comedy. And I like seeing people who suck box.
Yeah, listen, I paid too. I think it was a great event. In terms of the entertainment, like, this is what you're really paying for, is the buildup. This is why they do press conferences, everything. Those are longer than the actual fight. And it doesn't always mean the fight's going to be good. I mean, most fights are bad. Yeah, listen, Chael Sonnen, I'm a massive fan of Chael Sonnen, but he wasn't really the most, entertaining fighter. He never knocked anybody out, but his buildup was so good that you had to watch that fight, and it made you more in tune with it. It's very rare that you have an extremely exciting fighter who's also good at the buildup, right? And then, I mean, Conor, Nate, guys like that are guys who are obviously very entertaining to watch in and outside of the ring, but that's a rare combination. So, yeah, I agree with you on that one, man. Hats off to Misfits and putting that on there. Hats off to Chris Avila for technically being, I guess, the lightweight and light heavyweight champ now of Misfits. If you're doing some boxing math there, and you got Anthony Taylor with the light heavyweight belt, who Chris beat on every single round. So congrats, Chris, on that one too.
So building off of that, you guys are talking about Dylan at least did a good job promoting the fight. Apparently it did 1.3 million pay-per-views. So now Dylan Dennis is trying to build off the success he had, not in the boxing ring, but in promoting the fight. He was on Piers Morgan and he said, Dana White, call me up, hit me up. I want to be in the UFC. He was on Twitter today. I think he said literally, Dana White, let's do this, sign me. What do you guys think? You think that's a possibility? You think he promoted himself well enough that the UFC will generate some interest in him, or what do you guys think?
I think that's a great signing. If Dana, first of all, I don't believe the 1.3 million buys. I think that was probably inflated by whoever reported it. I know we posted it, but sometimes we just post stuff because it's currently trending or it's current news, but it doesn't say we believe
it was sources from Happy Punch. So someone told Happy Punch.
Guy, he probably has a better figure as to what it sold. 1.3 million, I ain't buying it. What were you saying, Robby?
Well, you got to keep in mind, I believe it was on DAZN, which is obviously a big platform, but in England it might have sold very well, but it's a lot cheaper over there. They don't charge the same amount for their pay-per-views, I don't believe. So the $54.99 ticket, when you see a UFC event, doing 500,000, 800, or 1 million buys, those are predominant. Those are US buys, right? That's huge. Those big numbers. So when you're paying $10 or whatever they're paying for a pay-per-view, they might have hit it if because it was a huge fight in England. KSI is he's weirdly big there. He's one of the biggest stars in England. They're not kidding. He's that big out there. It doesn't the kids know him in North America, but he's a big star in Europe that we don't really process because it's like soccer stars. We maybe that's bad comparison, but it's just he's much bigger over there than he is over here.
I don't see the intrigue. I don't see the intrigue. The first time and only time I've ever liked KSI was actually after he just lost to Tommy Fury when he was all pissed off. I like to see that fiery, the firiness. He was all mad and I want to rematch. He was talking shit. That made me like him a little bit because it shows that he cares and he really thought he won. And so I did like to see that from KSI. But back to Timmy's original question: should Dylan Dennis fight in the UFC? I think Dana White should sign him. The guy's hilarious. He talks a lot of good shit, like Conor McGregor. So I think, what would he fight at? 155 or 170?
170. Yeah, he'd be fighting at 170. I think for sure they should sign him. I mean, he's not going to go back to Bellator. I don't know what they'd want to work out and pay him, but it'd be entertaining. He talks a lot of shit, and he's going to have to prove himself, right? I'd rather see him in an MMA match than a boxing match ever again, though. And listen, I've watched, I don't know if you guys have seen him grapple Gordon Ryan back when they were the same size. That was a hell of a match. He looked really good. And if he's still got that kind of grappling, he can be a problem. And
Gordon Ryan won, I'm assuming?
No, I think it was the one I saw, I think was a draw, or at least it looked like a draw. It was extremely competitive. They both looked really good. Gordon was on his, doing a lot of butt.
I think Gordon won a decision in that, if I'm not mistaken. But
they fought multiple times, right? And decisions sometimes are weird in grappling matches because you're like, well,
it's got its own scoring system, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but I think they fought more than once, didn't they? Or no?
I can't remember. I think they only fought once, but I might be wrong about that.
You're probably right because you know your facts, but. Cap or anybody, if you go YouTube Dylan Dennis versus Gordon Ryan, you'd be very impressed. Again, it's Gordon Ryan 40, 50 pounds lighter, or 30 pounds lighter, but very, very impressive, both of them.
I think Dylan Dennis could definitely win some fights in the UFC. What do you think, Timmy? You want to see him in the UFC, or?
I mean, I think it'd be interesting. I know, he's proven that he's good at promoting the fight. He is a very good grappler. He's 2-0 in MMA. It's been a long time, but I think he could win some fights for sure just on the merits of his grappling. And I think the fact that he's friends with Conor McGregor, that makes for a big promotional tool. Just their relationship. He was Conor's jiu-jitsu coach for a while. And that sort of brings me into the next topic, because Dylan Dennis was accusing Logan Paul of juicing, and there's this whole drama with USADA leaving the UFC. They sort of parted ways right as Conor was re-entering the pool. So now at the beginning of next year, starting in January, the UFC will have a new anti-doping program, not USADA. USADA pieced out. It's a very interesting development. What did you guys make of that? Are we re-entering the early days of the UFC when we had Uberim eating his steroid horse meat? Is that what
I got strong feelings about this, but I'll let Robby start.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to see Uberim and TRT Belfort back, but I think the reality is that the UFC's been dealing with USADA a while. They got a little bit of an archaic system. Like I think it was Dana Hunter got on there and said, "Hey, listen, we've been asking for an app to track fighters that you get that on any phone," and they just didn't develop their systems enough. And they did a lot of weird shit, like showing up to fighters' houses at 4 a.m. I know some of that's been corrected, but I think the UFC looked at it and are like, listen, we're a very big, well-run business and we can do this better. And they partnered and got a better deal. And, better science is what they're saying. Of course, there's always going to be speculation. I do think that maybe Conor, that obviously had a lot to do with, maybe had something to do with why they finally let it go. I don't think the way USADA said it, though, because I don't think Conor's fighting in December. Like it's a month and a half away, and he's just saying that because he wants to. Whether they keep him out 6 months or not, who knows? They might try to hold him till UFC 300. But I think it had more to do with the fact that they didn't like the CEO of USADA and thought they could do it better.
Yeah, it was a nasty breakup, and USADA came out and they announced it on their own, and that pissed off the UFC. It was unprofessional on USADA's part, and I think USADA kept the sport clean for 8 years, 9 years, and they came in, they did their job. Now it's time for them to get the fuck out.
Mostly clean. I'm not a scientist, but I was talking to a bodybuilder the other day who said, and they could be way off on this, but he's like, it's basically impossible, very very difficult to test for things like just straight HGH. There's always workarounds, right? Like that's the problem. The science is always catching up to the schemers and the scammers on there. So there's always going to be something. Like, listen, a lot of those Brazilians look like they've been yoking it for since they were kids, and not to put it on them, but like it's in pharmacies over there. It's a much more social, like anybody can get it out there. It's a part of the culture. And I'm not against
the culture. This guy's putting a lot around Brazilians right now. Timmy, how do you feel about that?
Listen, I love Brazil, but yeah, he knows he could walk to a corner store right now and grab steroids. Like it's the truth. It's the truth. So, and it's not a bad thing. Listen, man, if you're not in competition, like it's good to go on supplements as you get older, especially in your 40s and 50s. The problem is in combat sports, it needs to be an even playing field, and everybody's trying to get an edge. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Either let everybody use it or nobody use it. But there's always going to be cheaters.
Well, I hope this new program that they implement. Listen, there's people who are anti-cheater, like the Nate Diaz's, the Diaz brothers, and a lot of people don't like cheaters. I always, I like to form my own opinion. I'm pro-cheater. I love the juice, and I want to see some juiced out animals just bashing each other in the head. And I want to see those crazy bodybuilder physiques back in the UFC, and hopefully that happens.
Bring Ron Waterman back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the guy I interviewed? The legend? Don Fry.
Don Fry.
He was on some shit. Like, he was yoked.
Yeah, he put on a nice 20, 30 pounds in between UFC events. But you could back then. Everybody was doing it, right? So you can't blame the guys. Like, if you're going to get up against your competition there and they're all doing it, it's like, there's probably only a few guys not doing it back then, namely, Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz, right? So like, but you had other fighters not taking steroids, of course, but
still pretty crazy that Nick Diaz got screwed over for weed during a time when people were juiced out of their friggin' gills It's
At
crazy.
31. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's brutal. They should who was that? Was that USADA? They should pay
It
him
was the
you know,
Nevada Athletic Commission.
about it. Well, yeah, they should pay him what he would have lost during that. He should get a $10 million check minimum from Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Facts.
All right. Hashtag justice for Nick Diaz. All
What do
right,
you
boys.
think? Timmy, I always like your opinions. What do you think, bro, on USADA? Are you happy about this? What do you think?
I think it's weird. I think USADA, the way they acted was really weird. Their message was really weird. They have this exemption in place specifically, like if a fighter has a really bad injury and he needs to go on some shit to heal up, that exemption exists for that. Conor's leg snapped. He probably was on something not so he could juice, but so he could heal, so he could get back. It was just a weird situation. I like the sport clean, so I hope whoever they bring in does a good job. I think they will. You know, I don't want the horse meat to return. I think the Uberine is just too dangerous, man. It's one thing if it's like baseball and guys are juicing so they can hit the ball farther, but when you're already kicking people in the head, I don't know. I think it's too dangerous.
You talk about the exemptions. I truthfully think Conor was clean all the way through his career. He looked like a clean fighter. His physique didn't change too much. When he leaned out, obviously he was really cut. But you know, maybe some extracurricular drugs on weekends and the occasional weekday. But I don't think he did any steroids or anything. I don't think he abused that.
Bring up is that Nate Diaz called out Jake Paul for a rematch. He posted it on his Instagram. He said, "You ain't got nobody to fight. Let's roll it back in December." Boys, what do you make of that?
Huge. I don't know what I'll let Robby take it away, but I think it's fucking huge. I want to see that rematch. Nate almost had him in the first fight. He got knocked down in the first and second round. Hey, he was just warming up. Everyone knows how the Diaz brothers fight. He was in his warm-up stage. As soon as he warmed up, he dominated the rest of the fight. I would love to see that fight again. And I think it makes the most sense for Jake Paul. There's not a lot of exciting names out there right now to fight. You know, running it back with Nate Diaz, I think does the most ticket sales, does the most pay-per-views. And because Jake Paul's talking about fighting a legit boxer, like a smaller name. No one wants to see that. No one wants to see some regular.
I think in terms of live gate and pay-per-view sales, 100%. Nate's going to be the biggest opponent he could have right now. These guys are such big stars; they don't have many options out there. They got to do something big. For Jake's perspective, I think what he's thinking right now is, I want to fight a boxer. It's going to be some guy we don't know, but he's going to have a good record. He's going to look like a decent boxer, and he's going to want to go in there and dominate him and get a W. I don't think he's too concerned about the pay-per-view sales. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been saying that and going for this fight. Definitely not going to be, a Nate Diaz, Jake Paul event by any means. But I think he wants to do that to parlay that into maybe the Tommy fight. The Tommy fight kind of annoys me after that KSI one. I think it lost some steam. But there's potential for a rematch with Nate. I don't know. It's really there's not many people Jake can fight after this. So, we'll see who he, he's actually going to fight in December and where that goes. But, you got to have these banger events. You can't fight two duds in a row. So if he fights a guy who might be a great boxer and doesn't have a big name, unless he wants to actually work on climbing that rank. But I think, he needs some more time. If he wants to fight like a Canelo or something, right? He needs some big events and to continue to build that hype. So we'll see.
This is what I got to say. I want to see them fight again. I really want to see them fight in MMA. Jake Paul was on the Fight SZN podcast talking shit, saying that Nate Diaz couldn't submit him because he couldn't take him down, which is funny because Nate's never submitted anybody by taking them down. He always submits the guy taking him down. So if they want to run it back, which I think they should, I'm going to watch it whether it's boxing or MMA, but I want to see it in MMA. Jake Paul was talking all that smack. I could beat him. All I have to do is train kicking for a few months. All right, dude, put your money where your mouth is, because here's a fact. A rematch in MMA is going to sell a lot more than a rematch in boxing. We already saw the boxing. Let's see it in MMA. That will get people watching.
100%. And Nate will be the first guy to bring a boxer into MMA. And Jake already said, yeah, he's going to do it. You hit the nail on the head with that one. That's the fight everybody wants to see. Nate wants to run it back because that's how Nate is. He's like, I want to beat you in your own turf, right? Like, I don't care. That's, if I'm at a disadvantage, I want that. But the MMA match is what he'd be the first one to do it. There's not been a spectacle like that before. The problem is going to be that Jake is signed to the PFL, and Nate's not going to be fighting in the PFL. Nate's going to do his own thing, or if anything, maybe promote event with the UFC, do something big there. And that's a tough fight to put together logistically, just because Jake is signed to the PFL. That is the hurdle. But if you get past that hurdle, you have the biggest boxing crossover to MMA fight I think that we've ever seen. And you're 100% right. That sells more than their first boxing match, without a doubt, because nobody's done it yet.
One thing I know
Absolutely.
about Nate Diaz is he's a man of his word. If Jake Paul agrees to a boxing rematch with him, then Nate will agree to an MMA match. I know Nate doesn't want to do PFL. He's UFC born and bred and has a loyalty with UFC. They'll work out the MMA terms. I think Jake Paul should rematch him in boxing, then they'll run it back in MMA. Because the fight was so close in boxing, Jake didn't dominate him. It was if you watch back the fight, it was very close. It was 10 rounds of great action.
If they rematch in boxing, how does that fight play out? And if they rematch in MMA, how does that fight play out? I want to hear the fight picks. Let's go.
I mean, this is easy. Nate Diaz wins them both. What do you think? I really believe that. I'm not just saying I really believe that, because the boxing match was so close. I think Nate Diaz will fine-tune some things. He did have an injury going into that one. And Jake Paul's a tough opponent. The guy's fucking jacked. He's strong. He's a very, very I take him as a legitimate boxer. He stood in there with Nate Diaz, who I take as a legitimate boxer. Anyone discounting these guys as not real boxers, they don't know the sport of boxing. Nate Diaz has been boxing 20 years. He knows the sport of boxing. And Jake Paul went 10 rounds with Nate Diaz. So I consider Jake Paul a boxer. I consider Nate Diaz a boxer. And the fight was so close, there wasn't a decisive winner in my mind. If you were there in person, like the two of us were, me and Robby were there, you saw that like Nate Diaz won rounds 5 through 10, in my opinion, easily. He was making more contact. Jake Paul dropped.
I think it was 3-4. I think it was round 5. He got clipped. So obviously can't give him that round. And then the later round 7, 8, and in 10, he put the pressure on. It was a close fight. Listen, this is what I'm saying. It was Nate's boxing debut. This is not Dylan Danis and Logan Paul. And no disrespect to Logan. This is a strong athletic guy, but he's not. Jake Paul is a better boxer. This is what he does. This is his life. I think it's a really competitive fight again, to be honest. That's what I think. And I think in MMA, of course, I think Nate beats him. Like, Jake is an athletic guy, but he's not put the time in MMA. I see Nate. You can use it, Nate's game too, to put that pressure on you in MMA. It's just different with the smaller gloves in there. Jake's obviously got a lot of power. He's a good wrestler, but I just don't see Jake winning. But that's what's so compelling, and that's what probably would motivate Jake to take that fight, is because he wants to be put in that position where he thinks everybody thinks he's going to lose. I think that's the more exciting fight. I would love to see the boxing match again. I'd love to see Nate.
This is with all respect to Jake Paul. If Jake Paul hasn't earned your respect now as an athlete, as a boxer, as a fighter, then you guys don't know what you're watching. The guy has been in there with Ben Askren. He's been in there with Nate Diaz. And he obviously puts time into the gym. He has his own promotion. He works out hard. So Jake Paul's long earned my respect. He beat Anderson Silva. So we're picking Nate Diaz because, we know what we're talking about here. And I think he gets the rematch in boxing, and obviously he's going to win in MMA. But no disrespect to Jake Paul. Jake Paul is a legitimate athlete, and he's only getting better. He's only 25, 26 years old. But not to cut you off, Timmy, I just wanted to say that. Respect to Jake Paul, even though we're picking Nate Diaz. What you've done in a short period of time is, nothing. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's helped put boxing back on the map. There's been a lot of people that do it, the influencer boxing, but he's taken it seriously so people can take the influencers seriously. If it was just a bunch of influencers, I don't think it would sell. But I think that, the way he's been able to do it and creatively, and the Anderson Silva, I think was really his coming out there. And nobody thought he was going to beat Anderson Silva, and he came in there, regardless of what age Anderson is. That was a hell of a performance and showed how tough he was. And, again, Nate was a massive underdog going into that fight too. Nobody thought Nate was going to win because Nate's coming up 2-3 weight classes. And I think that was the most competitive match he had up there with Anderson as well too. Anderson was fairly competitive, but Anderson lost it at the end. Here's the thing: Nate never loses the end of a fight. That's an MMA or boxing. That's why they say if there's no rounds or no time limit, you're not going to beat the Diaz bros. That was always the thing going in. So if you got to fight forever, good luck, right? So that's what makes it exciting. But again, I know Nate wants that rematch in boxing. Everybody wants to see it in MMA. It's just about putting the business side together. I don't know that's a tough. PFL will have to let them out of their contract and do something different there. But that's I think a 7-figure pay-per-view that's not been done before, bringing a boxer over to MMA, because Jake, like you said, is a boxer. So bringing him to the MMA world hasn't been done.
And Timmy, your opinion on this?
Listen, if they box
No
again,
one gives a fuck, bro. You're always gonna get
every time, every single time.
Move it on, bro. We don't give a fuck about this. I'm speaking for the audience. Ain't no one cares. Next topic. No, I'm just kidding. What do you think here?
What was I saying? Yeah, if it's boxing, I think it's gonna be even closer than last time, because I think Nate's plan was to gas him out, and Jake proved that his cardio is better than I think Nate expected. I think Jake Paul's corner even said, like, oh, he's trying to punch you out. He's trying to get you to punch yourself out, like conserve your energy a little bit. So I think Nate's going to be more active from the start. That's going to make it a closer boxing match. But honestly, that MMA fight is what I want to see. Listen, if Conor McGregor can box Floyd Mayweather while he's still under contract with the UFC, I'm sure the PFL can work something out with Real Fight Inc. They'll make some cross promotion, make it happen, because I think Nate Diaz is going to beat that ass pillar to post in MMA, and that's what I want to see. Jake Paul has done a lot of good things in boxing, but he's also talked a lot of shit about MMA and MMA fighters, and this is what we want to see as the MMA diehard of in the circle. I like boxing. I love MMA. I want some revenge for MMA. I want to see him fall into a guillotine. I want to see him choked out. Not to hate on the guy, but I think Nate Diaz beats him in under a minute in MMA. And he said he would beat Nate Diaz in MMA. Let's see it. Put your money where your mouth is.
Hey, Robbie, we're both good friends of Nate Diaz here. Just for the viewers, he posted December 15th versus Jake Paul. Real or fake? Not to put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the same question.
Hey, listen, it's real that Nate would show up on one day's notice if you wanted that smoke. But I think he knows. Listen, he's helping Jake regardless get some attention on that fight, because nobody even knows who Jake is fighting. So regardless of who Jake is fighting, Nate actually did him a favor by posting that out, because it brings more attention to the fight. So I think Jake probably appreciates that. Low key. So whether they fight or not, December 15th, I think that Jake is trying to fight a boxer that's not going to get a lot of views. But you know what? That's some help co-promote that fight. So he did him a favor on that one.
Yeah, I think it's real. I think they're boxing December 15th. I think I want to call it out here. What today is October 18th, Timmy?
That'd be huge.
It's about 2 months away. I think they're going to fight December 15th, because Jake Paul's trying to find a real boxer. I guess that's a word on the street. They're going to come to their senses. Money makes the world go round. Nikisa, Jake Paul, they're going to be like, hey, this ain't selling pay-per-views. Ain't no one going to buy this fight. The tickets aren't going to sell. They're going to come to their senses and be like, run back Nate Diaz. Let's fucking put on an entertaining fight that people want to see. And I think they'll fight December 15th. I think Nate Diaz knows what he's doing. He's onto something when he posted that. He wouldn't post that if he didn't know something. I think Nate Diaz knows something.
Yeah, he'd be a hell of a Christmas present to get that one run back. And then we would see MMA, like they said as well, too. So I'm all for it, man. I would prefer that than watching anything else. That was just my thoughts on what Jake's trying to do with his career.
Now is the Fight SZN podcast. I am Timmy Shoes with Inside Fighting, joined by Robby Clark and Andrew Capucetti. You can find us at InsideFighting.com. We're on all of the socials, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok. You can find us there. Check out our exclusive content. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Check us out next week. We're breaking down Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury. Big fight next weekend. We have UFC 294 this weekend. Next weekend, Ngannou, Fury. Wait till you see how we break that fight down. Crazy.